Hey guys, WixGadget here. So today we're going to be giving you an in-depth review of the Motorola Droid X on Verizon Wireless. So in this review we're going to be talking about a lot of things here. We're going to be talking about looks and usage, display, operating system, smoothness, sound and speaker quality, storage and processor, call quality, apps, keyboard, browser, multitasking, and camera. So for the first component here, we're going to be talking about the looks and usage of the phone. Now, as you've probably noticed, the Motorola Droid X is a very large phone. It has a very big screen. It's very slim over here. It has a little bit of a hump over there, but it actually feels kind of comfortable in your hands when you have a little bit of grip there. I guess they had to put the hardware somewhere, so that's where it is. You can see the cameras over there. This is the slider. You can open it up. There's the battery. There's the micro SD card. You have to pop out the battery to access the micro SD card, like in the original Droid. Let me pop that back. Down here you have your classic Android navigation buttons. You have settings, you have home, you have back, and you have search. Over here you have the USB port, and over here you have the HDMI port, which is very plus for the Droid X. You don't see that on much phones. Over here you have the volume of the phone on ringer, vibrate, and here's the camera. They made it red, I guess, to make it look kind of like the Incredible, you can say. And here's the power and lock, and here's the headphone jack. So for the second component, we're going to talk about the display of the phone. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this phone has a very large screen, in fact, bigger than the Evos. Now, I'm not sure if this is the biggest screen that we've seen on a smartphone or Android device yet, but in my opinion, I think it is. I'm not quite sure about that. Obviously, the resolution isn't as great as the iPhone for its Retina display as per se, but it's pretty crisp. I mean, it's not bad or anything, but it's not the best. If you look at web pages, which we'll show you later on, without zooming in, it looks a little bit shaky, and a little bit, jaggy. But overall, the display is pretty nice. You can see things very clearly. So that's not much of an issue. The display is very nice. So for this third component here, we're going to talk about the operating system. Now, this is currently running Android 2.1. Android 2.2 Froyo is going to be released for the Droid X later on. So for the operating system, it's running the basic Android. You have all your Android widgets. But on top of that, you're running the new Motoblur. What Motoblur is, it's kind of a new UI on top of the Android system. It makes it just look nicer, and you have a little bit more feel rather than the Nexus 1 or the original Droid, where they're not running anything on top of that. And it's kind of, you can say it's a competitor of the HTC Sense. So if you don't just want an Android device, you'd probably want to decide between an HTC or a Motorola Droid X. So for the fourth component, we're going to talk about the smoothness of the device. Now by smoothness, I mean just scrolling through the phone as in compared to the iPhone. So as you probably know, on most Android devices, scrolling isn't as smooth as the iPhone per se. But you'll get used to it. It's not that big of a deal. It is smoother than the original Motorola Droid. If you notice, if we go here to the settings, it's loaded pretty fast. It's pretty smooth. It's not as laggy as per se as the original Droid, and that may be because of the 1 GHz processor that's running. So for the fifth component, we're going to be talking about the call quality on the device. Now, the call quality in general on the Motorola Droid X is outstanding in my opinion. But that's just me. Let's see what you have to say for yourself. Now, I have dialed one of my friends, and he's going to answer. It's on speakerphone.
Yo!
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much.
Alright, bye.
Bye.
Alright, now that was one of my friends, and he was, as a matter of fact, outside on a busy street. Now, that's something to think about. It really cancels out the noise. And yeah, so that's the call quality. So let's move on to the sixth component, which is sound and speaker. Now, let's go into the music app. I have a song loaded. It's called Comeback by AHMIR. as you can see, the music player here has kind of a Windows Media Player kind of thing going on over there. It's pretty nice. Much better than Motorola Droid original ones. So that's something to think about. Now, I don't know how the sound came out on camera because I'm using a flip, but let me tell you, in real life, it just sounds amazing. Very loud and very crisp. I'm amazed by the speakers that they've put into the Droid X. So for the 7th component, we're going to be talking about the storage and the processor. Now, the Motorola Droid X comes preloaded with 8 gigabytes of hard drive on the actual phone itself, and also comes with a 16 gigabyte pre-installed micro SD card. And that's in the back, which I showed earlier. I don't know if you can read that, but 16 gigabytes. Yeah, I don't know if you can read that, but so basically you have 24 gigabytes of memory on the phone, and you can expand that up to all the way to 40 by adding a 32 gigabyte micro SD card. So that's a lot. Now for the processor, now it uses a 1 gigahertz processor. The processor is pretty smooth. It goes through apps very quickly. Doesn't take much time. It's loading up maps already loaded up there. I mean, it's just, the processor is really nice. It can handle multitasking on top of other things very well. Very nicely done. So for the 8th component here, we're going to be talking about the apps on the Droid X. So, as you all know, the Droid X uses the Android market for all their apps. You have apps here. For the categories, you have apps, you have games, and you have Verizon. So apps is just basically all the apps in general. You have Pandora, Google Maps, comics, communication, entertainment, finance, health, and all that good stuff. Then if you go into the games ones, then you have your basic action games, you have your brain and puzzle, cards and casino, and casual. And then the Verizon, I don't really use the Verizon, but it's just a Vcast, My Verizon, all this stuff. And they surprisingly have VZ Navigator only for Droid X. It's free, but you have to pay $10 a month in additional, which I don't get why anyone will do that, because you have Google Maps for free. So, in general, in my opinion, I believe that the iPhone apps are more superior to the Android apps. Now, part of that, I think, is because that they have to make this compatible with all the Android phones, while on iPhone, they're just focusing on one phone. So, I mean, in overall, you know, on the graphics on these apps are generally worse than the iPhone graphics for their games. And iPhone apps can just do a little bit more. Maybe just because they put more effort into it, because of more audience, or something like that. However, there are some tethering applications that you can get from this. If you root your phone, you can get a wireless tethering hotspot for free. Or you can just use a USB cable to your PC for free USB tethering, which is pretty nice. I don't believe that that's on the iPhone yet. So let's move on to the keyboard. So the Motorola Droid X does not come with a physical keyboard like it did with its the original Droid. It just has a new virtual keyboard, which is new with Motoblur. It's pretty nice actually. Let's open up a new text message here. So here you have your keys. It looks a little bit different than regular Android phones or Sense keyboards. And then if you go into landscape, you have a ton of space. I mean, it's just, you know, once you get used to it, then I can imagine you'll be making very few mistakes, because they've also improved their autocorrect. And I personally like the autocorrect a little bit better than the iPhones, because it gives you all of your options over there rather than just autocorrecting it for you at the last minute like on the iPhone. So let's go ahead and type a quick sentence here. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Now we chose this because it features all the letters of the alphabet. So the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Perfect. It autocorrected me for a few times. Sometimes it clicked Z instead of X. And sometimes I did the same thing for other letters, so it did it perfect. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So now let's go ahead and try it in landscape mode. Now this may not be as accurate because I'm not used to landscape mode. I'm pretty sure that if you get used to it, you'd be able to use it perfectly. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So I made a few mistakes here over in the brown and the fox area. It ended up with the quick bore one dock jumps over the lazy dog. So I think that may have been because to reach the spacebar in landscape mode, you have to kind of reach down a little bit rather than just naturally you click around this row of letters here for the spacebar. But yeah, that was a quick look at the keyboard. Very nice. I believe it's the best on any Android phone as of now.